not the problem.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Prince of Persia 2008 epilogue walkthrough. And this is the final part of gameplay that you are going to see, because this is the end of the DLC, basically. The only thing that I've got left to show you is extras. Which is going to be fun, somewhat, but
A tomb. I hope that's not an omen.
we're in a tomb.
Must be the
It's
mausoleum
great.
of Achaemenes, king of the Ahura when the city fell. He returned liberated from Ahriman.
And they buried him underground? Not much of a reward.
He refused to be buried in the city. He felt shame for allowing the city to fall. He was laid to rest in secret. Pilgrims found his tomb. They built this.
Then we should hope it is an omen. Ahriman can be stopped. But Princess, if I die in the cause, cremate me. These places give me the creeps.
So, having a quick look, Achaemenes is kind of one of the
Did your people
eponymous
believe these
ancestors of the
Let's try to see what
Achaemenid
they do.
dynasty. Apparently one of the first Persian kings or something.
There! The wall is tilting.
Reigned around 700 BC.
I got the point of these at the temple, but what are these plates
And,
doing?
The plates are there to protect the mausoleum from unwelcome visitors.
well, at least that's
But
the
you are different
estimate.
from protecting the dead.
And apparently there were inscriptions which labelled him as a king,
They wouldn't need to.
which may mean that he was the
Looks like
first
we need to
official
get
king
down
of the
to that
Persians.
mausoleum.
The cranks move the
So it's quite cool that they've included him here and said he's an Ahura and he left. Which kind of fits this game quite neatly into kind of how things were in reality. Now, if you want to know what the name Achaemenes means, it's apparently a compound which literally translates to something along the lines of having a friend's mind, or characterised by a follower's spirit, or something to that effect, which is kind of cool, I guess. Now, another thing, if you wanted to know this, is that apparently Plato wrote quite a bit. Well, sort of. He wrote about Achaemenes when he was writing about the Persians and linked him with Perses, who is the ancestor of the Persians in Greek mythology. And apparently Achaemenes / Perses, because I think he kind of showed that they were sort of the same person, was the son of the Ethiopian queen Andromeda and the Greek hero Perseus, and therefore a grandson of Zeus. But then, kind of later writers
This has to take us
believed
somewhere.
that Achaemenes and Perses were different people, and that Perses was merely an ancestor of Achaemenes,
If we can find a way across.
which I would say probably makes more sense. But when it comes to Greek mythology and different people in things, you get into a really messy situation. Because the Greek gods and the Roman gods are essentially the same, but they just have different names. And after kind of the whole name change type thing, the perspective on them all altered slightly.
What was it like?
What?
You
And
didn't
this
say.
is going to be quite interesting, I
I
think.
mean, you've been there and back. What was death like?
I saw light. I saw the temple below me, you, and then nothing, just light.
That's it?
That's all I can remember until you brought me back.
Like I said, overrated.
I totally agree with the Prince that death is really, really overrated. Although, it's still a terrifying thing. and not something that anybody should take lightly.
Let's go!
Which I guess is kind of why I do appreciate this game's kind of not letting you die. Because narratively it makes sense, and even though it makes it feel like there's no challenge, I think I appreciate the fact that it works in the sense of this world.
This has to take us somewhere.
So I can't complain about it at all, and I quite like the lack of death, as I've said before, and literally just said like 5 seconds ago, but
Push.
this is what this epilogue is driving me to. Just babbling in insanity.
Okay.
But I do really like this Tomb of Achaemenes area. It's really cool looking. And you're never going to get down to all of the gold, but just having it there is just pretty cool. And I haven't been talking about the sort of puzzle at all, because, I mean, it's really simple. It's essentially just move the cranks to get the things in place, and it's very obvious when they're in place because, you know, you have a single path to get across, and that's it.
This king, how did he and the Ahura fight Ahriman last time?
They were pushed back, almost destroyed before Ormazd joined them. It took Ormaz's power to stand against Ahriman, to defeat him, and even then they were almost destroyed.
But they fought. They found an answer. They won.
You created this mess. Now you want to believe I can save you from it. There aren't simple answers. We can stay alive for now, but that won't stop Ahriman. He will sweep the world clean of all who oppose him.
You know what Ahriman did when you died? Gloated. He was happy. He wasn't scared. He wasn't angry. He knew he was going to get out, that there was nothing to stop him escaping. That's why he's after you now. He's afraid you can stop him.
Then he fears for nothing. We can run, gather the light, but the shadows will lengthen and there is nothing we can do to stop it.
You're wrong. I thought I was the one that left everything behind and didn't care.
I thought you were the one who didn't believe.
There's something about being swallowed by a god and seeing people come back from the dead that changes your perspective. I don't see how you can have lost your faith and kept your powers.
I don't know why.
You just can't admit you were wrong.
You don't know what you're talking about.
If this king can stand and fight after the city is lost, why not you?
He didn't stand. He ran in fear like the others until Ormazd finally heard their pleas.
Then we get a message to Ormazd.
What do you think the Ahura have been doing for the last 1,000 years? 20, 30 generations we have called out to him, and nothing. That is why our faith crumbled. The city turned to dust.
Your faith didn't crumble. And your powers haven't either. If they come from Ormazd, you must have some connection with him.
You had no right to bring me back. You've endangered everything, everyone with what you've done.
And you deciding to offer your life without saying a word was just fine?
We had one chance to seal him away. One chance to save things for another 1,000 years. And now it's gone.
He would have got free. You must see that.
So, yeah, you can see why earlier, as in last part earlier, I was frustrated.
All your life you knew what would happen.
Because Elika's absolutely incensed by what the prince did. And just the warring personalities going on here is just insane. But I really do think that that kind of conversation that they had just then, it really shows kind of what happens when you have this sort of thing happen. It was needlessly vague, but you get what I mean. But we have a lovely quick fight with the Morning King here. And very shortly afterwards we are going to have a fight with the Shapeshifter. That's always fun. But don't worry, we are near the end of the DLC now, which is basically why they are throwing more fights at us. Also, because I felt that he got more health back. Wonderful! Because we just need to prolong this fight even longer. Now, in spite of kind of everything I've been saying about the fact that this is going to end unsatisfactorily, the kind of final platforming challenge is quite fun. So, look forward to that when we eventually get to it. Also, I didn't realise that this lighter could heal himself. It's like, come on, dude. Did you have to have that kind of power? Really? Thankfully he is dead now. Or at least dead for now. And we can make our way over to where we are going to have to face the shapeshifter all over again.
You always talk of power, and you always run away. We are getting out of here. Let's get out of here before he comes back. You got me into this, remember?
I told you to leave.
Well, you should have said it louder.
And so we leave the rather awesome looking tomb and,
through this place.
Indeed.
I'm not the problem.
We are very, very, very close to the end now. You can see what I mean by this DLC is not that long. I mean, in terms of the actual game's length and this game's and the DLC's length, it's a reasonably hefty thing. But in the grand scheme of gameplay times, it's really short.
Hang on.
Also, we're touching corruption, we should be getting sucked in, and thankfully we're not, because that would be evil. Because it's not our fault that our feet have to touch the corruption in that sense. And oh look, big square room. Doors. Hello, Mr. Shapeshifter. Thankfully this is the last time that we are going to face this blighter. Although, rather stupidly, I believe this might be the one where I decided to, you know, just fight it out. Instead of be a smart person and just keep trying to get him through the bloomin' hole. Because otherwise these fights just last forever. And fights that last forever just get boring after a while. And the frustrating thing is this isn't even the final battle of the game. No, look, he transformed back into the warrior, which means we've got to throw him over the edge again. Ugh. They really should have thought over the shapeshifter a little bit more, because this whole shape-shifting back thing is really, really stupid. And it can really make these fights last far longer than they need to. Yeah, we've got one more fight after this. Thankfully it's quite a cool and sort of multi-tiered fight. But still, oh dear. Oh, that's an interesting camera angle for this. I mean, I'm not dismissing it. It's quite a cool camera angle, but just slightly odd. Also, the whole Elika popping in and out during the press X quick time event, that was interesting. I really wish I was better at some of these quick time events. Because really they're not difficult. It's just that I think sometimes you press the button and it doesn't read it properly. It's all in the slight bugginess of the DLC. You probably also heard kind of slight audio cuts and kind of seen a lot more screen tearing kind of throughout, and it's slightly frustrating because it just makes it look slightly sloppy. I mean, I've seen games that are far, far, far sloppier than this. Like, I mean, if you look at the subtitles in Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure, that is what I would call sloppy. And also, from what I can gather, the localization effort of Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies. And thankfully the Hunter is nearly done. Well, the Shapeshifter is nearly done for good. And then we never have to see his ugly mug ever again. Which I'll be incredibly grateful for. And
close. Once we get out of here,
that's the Shapeshifter done for good. Kind of, he disappears on a bit of a whimper, but you could say that the same goes for this game as a whole, with the epilogue included in the overarching story, because I mean it is. We are getting a lot closer to the thing that I have been just mentioning but never really going into detail about, which is this DLC's ending. And
don't drop me.
Yeah. I don't really want to spoil it, even though this game has been out for like 6 years now. Because it may not be quite what you're expecting, unless you do know what happens, and in which case I'm just blathering on about something you already know about. But I'd say if there's any sort of comparison I can yield, Final Fantasy XIII-2 is probably the best example I can give as to quite how unsatisfying this epilogue DLC is, and how the story ends. Obviously that's incredibly unhelpful if you've never, you know,
Do you know where we're going?
played Final Fantasy 13-2, but still.
We can get out through there. We will have reached the other side of the hills. They'll shelter us from Ahura for a while.
Did you want more fights?
Alika,
Well,
go!
here we go. This
Get
is
out
the
of here!
last one. Thank God. Or, to be more accurate, I should say thank on Mars, because obviously that's the world that we are inhabiting right now.
Your sword cannot harm me.
So basically, in this fight, you need to push the Morning King kind of off the ledges and work our way to the main arena. I really wish there was a slightly quicker way of moving to the side. That would help. But yeah, you have probably noticed at this point that nothing you do will harm the Morning King. So there is only one way to defeat him. And that is essentially
Alika, the throne!
do what you have done to
For Ormaz!
pretty much every shapeshifter fight.
Now, Alika!
We have to find a way!
Your turn! Finish this! I need you!
So here we go.
The throne!
It's time to push him onto this bloody throne. He can sit there like a king.
Father?
Alika, get back! Get back! You got me into this, remember?
I told you to leave.
You should have said it louder.
So, that is the last time we will ever see the Morning King, I think. And as we make our kind of final move, because this is our final platforming challenge of the entire game, I'm going to bring up something that you may not know exists. So around the time of Prince of Persia 2008, a DS game was brought out in the same universe. It was a spin-off. And it was called Prince of Persia: The Fallen King. So you play as the prince and a new character called Zal,
Together!
and you fight the forces of Ahura in a 2D side-scrolling platformer type thing that you control with touchscreen. And basically it follows right on from the events of this game.
We have to keep going!
And
Ahura,
Is he here?
let's not find out.
basically kind of the way it works is that the king was split in two by the corruption, so this is a spoiler, but I'm sure you probably don't care. So
Get to the exit!
yeah, so Zal is
Wasn't your
the
father.
uncorrupted version of the king. I think. Although this might be a different king. I have no idea. Basically,
Corruption is rising.
Prince of Persia: The Fallen King was received generally quite negatively. The control scheme was apparently really rubbish. So, yeah.
Go! Go!
Although apparently, GameSpot reviewer Caroline Petit said that the Prince is more likable in the DS game, because despite the constant wisecracks, he kind of shows that he kind of cares more deeply about what he's fighting for.
We're almost free of him.
But apparently it looked awful, it played awful, and it just felt artificially long. So this game sort of did get a sequel, but it was not great. And I would much prefer kind of an actual sequel, one that, you know, properly followed the story of the Prince and Alika after we make our final leap, because this power plate is basically going to lead us to the end of the game, as long as we don't screw up, obviously.
Yeah! Let's go!
And I believe we can see just in the distance there the balcony where we are heading to.
Keep doing that!
We're nearly out of here.
Alika?
And there we go. We're done, and it's time for the really unsatisfying ending.
I couldn't heal him. Ahura was too strong.
Just because he's growing stronger doesn't mean...
If I couldn't stop him now, how can I ever hope to? Ahura is free, and he will only grow more powerful.
We have to get out of here. If we cross the desert, there's a city 2-3 days from here. Or there's a port. It's further, but we could cross the sea, find somewhere further away.
Go where you will. May Ormaz watch over you.
Alika, you can't do this alone.
I know. That is why I must find my people.
Alika! Alika!
So, yeah, it's a bit depressing, really, and it's really unsatisfying because it's basically just a cliffhanger for something that's never coming. And that makes me sad, because I was like, I'm invested enough in the story of the Prince and Alika to want to know what happens next, but it's not happening. At least at last check. Who knows, Ubisoft may surprise me, but I doubt it. And, yeah, so, the epilogue is much more challenging than the main game, but it's fun. And that basically brings me to the end of the Prince of Persia 2008 walkthrough. The only thing I have left to show you are a bunch of extras, which I will do in the next part. But that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Join me in the extras and join me for whatever wonderful game I decide to do next. I'll see you then.